Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the Online Series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today I'm so excited to feature the Yveltal Groudon Bronzong team that Zhe Zhang used to finish first at the Milwaukee Regional Championships a couple of weekends ago. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team and talk about Zhe a little bit because he's actually been so impressive as a player this season. But if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps in the description below. Huge thank you to Zhe for the team. I've linked his Twitter down in the description below, as well as a rental and a paste if you want to try out the team yourselves. And if you enjoy, please share support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. So first of all, before even talking about the team, I just have to really give Zhe some credit for being just one of the best players I've seen this season. And really, in VGC history, it's been really rare to see such a meteoric rise so quickly. But you know, Zhe finished in the top 32 at the Secaucus Regional Championships a couple of weekends ago, then went to Milwaukee Regionals, won the tournament, and it was funny because I commentated Milwaukee Regionals, and I was asking him, oh, what are your plans, where are you for, championship points-wise for Worlds? And he's like, oh, I haven't really played too many events, I don't really have that many points. Then he goes to NAIC, the North American International Championships, the weekend after, and gets top 8 in the tournament with a different team. I can't express how difficult that is in this format particularly, because I think that a lot of high-level players really value comfort at live tournaments in this format, and to just completely change up your composition and still manage to get top 8 at the largest tournament of the year, I think it's just a testament to how good of a player he is. And so there are a lot of Chinese players this season that have really risen up. Obviously Chong Junpeng, dominating Salt Lake Regionals and then doing super well, both Milwaukee Regionals and NAIC as well. And so yeah, it's been really inspiring to watch, and I think I've learned a lot, watching their play and watching, their ability to rise up. So it goes to show, right? You can really make a name for yourself in this game. You got to put in the work, right? You got to be smart about it, but you can really rise to the top very, very quickly. And yeah, so huge credits to Zhe, because I've just been super impressed by him, and you're definitely going to want to keep an eye out for him at the World Championships. So let me talk a little bit about the team here. We featured Yveltal Groudon on the channel before, and I like Yveltal Groudon for a lot of reasons. First of all, right now there's a lot of Calyrex-S, Lunalas, and just Groudons, in the format. And I think this team actually has a pretty favorable matchup into most of the common comps right now, right? Against Zacian, Kyogre, you've got Groudon, Venueleki. Against opposing Groudon teams, you've got your Venusaur. Against the Calyrex-S and the Lunalas, you've got your Yveltal. And so I think this team actually has a pretty favorable matchup into a lot of the more popular compositions at the moment. I think one of the biggest strengths of Yveltal Groudon is that it has a lot of flexibility in its Dynamax options, right? If you look at the team, Yveltal, Groudon, Venu, and Eleki are all really solid as max options. But to be honest, they're all actually really good, given the current sets that they're using, even outside of Dynamax, where you just have so much damage both inside and outside of Dynamax. I think that's a really fundamental key point in Series 12, and it gives you a lot of strength in terms of, figuring out what you want to do with your Dynamax, as opposed to teams that lock you into Dynamaxing immediately. So, as I mentioned, I want to capture the pastes a little bit more frequently and show you the EV spreads for all the Pokemon on the team. But basically, you've got Black Glasses Yveltal here with Foul Play and Snarl. Now, the Black Glasses here is actually a really critical item choice because a lot of players typically expect Assault Vest on Yveltal nowadays, and so with Black Glasses, you do more damage with Foul Play. That's actually really critical against some Pokemon like Groudon and Zacian, and you're also able to Protect. A lot of players nowadays, when they go up against Yveltal, don't actually expect it to have Protect because of Assault Vest, and that gives you a lot of flexibility in your play. The Groudon here is a pretty standard bulky set here, but it has Bulk Up and Stone Edge rather than Sword Stance and Rock Slide. I feel like Sword Stance and Rock Slide was the pretty common set here, but Bulk Up is really nice, and is a move that I didn't really see too many players run before Zhe won the regional championships with this set. The reason you run Bulk Up is because it helps you so much more against the physical attackers in the format, like Zacian and opposing Groudons. And so you trade a little bit of extra damage output for more defensive output, and it means that Groudon can hang around for a lot longer, even outside of Dynamax. You've got Life Orb Venusaur here with Protect, Frenzy Plant, Sleep Powder, and Weather Ball, so notably no Earth Power, but you don't really need Earth Power here because Weather Ball is still used against Zacian, right? And I don't think Venu here really needs the special defense boost from Max Quake. Protect is super valuable for it. Tim and Max Speed so that you can outspeed opposing Elekis in the sun. Speaking of Elekis, we've got Max Speed Eleki here with just Electro Web, T-Bolt, Hyper Beam, and Protect. This Pokemon can max in the right position, that's why you have Hyper Beam, but it's also just really good to support where you can Electro Web and support the Yveltal and the Groudon. Finally, to round out the team, you've got Incineroar here with safety goggles. This is going to be super good into opposing Venusaurs, because otherwise opposing Venusaurs can actually be a huge pain. So this gives you a nice answer into it. You notice that there's a little bit more speed investment here, so that you outspeed opposing Incineroars and either fake them out before they attack or throw chop them before they move. And then finally, Bronzong, which I think is a really cool Pokemon on this team. Bronzong's not exactly the most popular pick at the moment. It's quite actually rough into a lot of the common attackers, whether it be Kyogre or Lunala or Calyrex. But against the right teams, this thing can just completely set up against them, right? And you've got Trick Room, which obviously supports Groudon super, super well, but you've also got the Iron Defense Body Press combo. And yeah, the idea is that you bring Bronzong out against the right matchup, and it is just essentially impossible to KO and diverts a lot of pressure away from your main attackers. And so, yeah. I think one thing I really like about this team is that it also has Protect on 5 of the 6 Pokemon, and we're in a, in Sword and Shield, I feel like a lot of players now, don't use Protect as much, but by throwing Protect back on these Pokemon, Bronzong, Venu, Yveltal, a lot of players actually don't expect Protect often on any of those. You can really catch your opponents off guard. So, I've been talking for long enough, but I just really love this composition. I'm not surprised that a player as skilled as Joe was able to win regionals with it. So, let's finally dive into things. First game of the day, and it is Reshiram and Zacian with Grimm, Thundurus, Gastrodon, and Rillaboom. So, going against Reshiram is definitely pretty interesting. Bronzong can actually be really good here if we eliminate Reshiram. The question is, how do we actually eliminate Reshiram, right? And Groudon's going to be solid into it. Yveltal's okay into it as well, because we have Snarl, right? And so that's pretty valuable, and you can see here Yveltal's max speed. So, Yveltal, Groudon. Incineroar is interesting. I have to be a little bit hesitant in bringing it because it could activate Defiant on Thundurus. One fun thing you can do with this team, by the way, is go with Regieleki and Yveltal. Because you've got Electro Web here. So what you can do is Electro Web into the Thundurus slot and then just Foul Play to KO it. It's actually not a bad option here in my opinion. I'm just trying to see if I can fit Bronzong in. Because I think we could actually go Regieleki, Yveltal, Groudon, and then Bronzong. Venusaur is tough here. I guess it's never bad to bring just because of the pressure of Sleep Powder in itself, but I don't love it as a max option because it's just not good into Reshiram or Thundurus here. And then Incineroar is always solid, right? It is obviously quite good into Zacian, but it's not really that good into Reshiram in my opinion, especially because we don't have something like a Shuka Berry. So, let's see. It is going to be Thundurus and Grimm. Okay. Turn 1 is interesting then, right? Because it's if you are using Grimm right now, you can go for a... Reflect, Light Screen. Normally, a lot of players predict, Yveltal to switch out into Bronzong in this position, or Groudon. I could actually just go into Groudon immediately and start clicking Bulk Up. I think that's actually not a bad option either. Truthfully, though, the most tempting play is really just Electro Web here into Foul Play. I'm kind of down to go for it here. Okay, they actually just protect Thundurus. That's fine. You confirm that you're not Assault Vested. It might be a Spirit Break coming out. Okay, they actually just go for Light Screen. So now they know that I have this play at my disposal. So, if Grimm has Scary Face or Trick Iron Ball, you could, target the Regieleki slot now. You could also just set up a Reflect. That's also a possibility. So, I'm honestly thinking about switching out into Groudon here and then just Thunderbolting for Chip. And then clicking Bulk Up. I also, okay, the awkward thing basically is, this is a pretty decent position for Bronzong, but Bronzong just really gets crushed by Reshiram as soon as it comes out, right? So I kind of expect a Reflect to go up right now as well. I don't think we would KO Thundurus with Reflect being up. And then they could just, Airstream into the Yveltal slot. So, I'm actually down to just Thunderbolt into the Thundurus slot. And actually just protect Yveltal here, trying to bait out a Thundurus Dynamax. They actually switch out. Okay, that works for me. Reshiram comes out. Cool. That's fine. If we can eliminate Reshiram, by the way, Bronzong can actually clean up this game for us, which is neat. So I'm not going to do very much damage these next couple of turns, but that's fine, in my opinion. Grimm actually opts to not set up Reflect, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it try to go for a Spirit Break here onto Yveltal. Yep. Okay. Now, honestly, I can just Thunderbolt into the Grimmsnarl slot and Snarl into Reshiram. I think in this game I probably want to Dynamax the Groudon, right? Because, like, Max Quake is so good into Reshiram, so good into Zacian, and I've got Max Rockfall into Thundurus. The main question is, like, positioning it properly, because I think Reshiram actually has a pretty solid matchup into a lot of the Pokemon that we're using. That's one of the reasons why I think Reshiram is, a solid pick, is because of its matchup into, like, a lot of the more Sun-oriented teams, right? You can take advantage of Groudon's Sun, you can Max Wormwind to decrease Groudon's attack as well, you can even fish for burns, so all of that adds up pretty quickly. Looks like they're going to choose to not Dynamax here, so probably just going for another Spirit Break, which would make sense. It does mean I get a Snarl off into Reshiram. Honestly, Reshiram is, like, normally really bulky, so even getting any amount of chip damage onto it, I find really valuable, personally. Okay, they're going to commit Earth Power into a Lecky. That's fine. Still brings us down to Sash, even with a Snarl, but that's because we get crit. Okay. That's fine, though. Like, we're never going to take 2 hits anyway. And Spirit Break into a Lecky. Okay. I don't mind that too much. I'd say the main interesting thing here is now considering, like, maxing the Yveltal instead. But I think it's fine to just go out in a Groudon here. If I were my opponent now, what would I do? I would probably... Like, do you fish for Blue Flare into the Groudon, right? Because what I can do is go for a Bulk Up. Or I could simply just Dynamax and Max Quake into Reshiram. I think a Dynamax from there and then, like, a Wormwind into Groudon makes sense. I think I'm okay going for Bulk Up into Snarl here, because if they play passively this turn and Groudon gets the Bulk off, and they do play passively, we're in really good shape. Now, the downside is by clicking Snarl here, I actually will activate Defiant on Thundurus, but I honestly feel okay about that, because now I'm in a position to simply just Dynamax the Groudon and just Max Rockfall into Thundurus. So, yeah. Snarl actually does really meaningful damage there still. And this is just the power of Black Glasses, honestly. Cool. I think what I'm actually going to do now is switch out the Yveltal into Bronzong. I could just Protect here, actually, as well. Bulk Up is just so nice here against pretty much my opponent's entire team. This turn is interesting because, like, it could be that Thundurus opts to, like, Protect here, right? Kind of like what they did on turn 1. If I were my opponent, it's like, do you even max Thundurus, to be honest? Because I think you're better off just clicking Wild Charge into Yveltal at the moment. And, like, maxing Reshiram instead. What I do want to be a little bit careful about is, like, them clicking Fly, I suppose. I also don't think I actually need to Dynamax here, truthfully. Because Stone Edge is also pretty powerful. And Thundurus isn't going to do anything into Groudon, even at +2. So, I'm down to Stone Edge into Thundurus this turn and Protect. Because what I don't want to do is Dynamax and then Rockfall into Thundurus clicking Fly, right? Grimm's finally going to switch out, and that's Zacian coming in. Okay. The other play to contemplate there was actually just maxing Groudon and Quaking into the Zacian slot. Okay, they are going to commit the Dynamax to Thundurus. I'm very okay with that, personally. I guess with Life Orb, a +2 Airstream into Groudon does do a sizable amount. And then I guess the fear is, like, Stone Edge actually not getting the knockout with Reflect being up. It's kind of close, actually. I'm not sure. Let's see. Okay, they do go for the Max Guard play. That makes sense. I'm okay with that, though, I think. Because now what I can do is... Oh, it would have been so sick to just have Max Quake Zacian there. But what I can do now is Dynamax Groudon. They'll probably double up into Groudon, but that's fine. I'll still survive that. Especially thanks to the defense boost. This like highlights why Bulk Up is so good, right? So we can max Rockfall into Thundurus now and just switch Yveltal into Bronzong. The other tricky thing though is like eliminating the... Like my opponent just has a lot of offense right now between Thundurus, the Zacian, and the Reshiram. So one thing I could have considered in this game was like maybe not clicking Snarl as loosely as I did turn 2 when Reshiram was out on the field. I just wanted to like guarantee that I got Bulk Up. While not taking very much damage from the opposing end. But obviously means Thundurus is a significantly larger threat now. So it makes sense for my opponent to, I don't know, double up on a Groudon, Behemoth Blade, and Max Airstream. And that's going to do a sizable amount, but we have Sitrus Berries, so we can tank that, survive, and then go from there. I guess the other interesting debate was actually staying in with Yveltal here and just clicking Max Quake into Zacian and Foul Play into Thundurus. Because I think if I were in my opponent's shoes, I'd actually double up onto Groudon here. And Quake plus Foul Play would just be so much damage there, right? Because it'd be a +2 Black Glasses Foul Play, as well as a +1 Max Quake into Zacian. Now, with the Reflect Up, I don't know how much bulk my opponent has. I'm not sure if we like get the one-hit knockouts with either of those, but I think in retrospect, I actually like that play a little bit more. So, there's Behemoth Blade. Okay. And they're actually going to target the Bronzong slot with that. Wow, okay. I think that's super good for us. And Thundurus is going to go for a Knuckle. Okay, now Knuckle is interesting because it will give them an attack boost, right? And they actually double up into Bronzong. So, yeah. I'll take that. This endgame is going to be really interesting with our Groudon. They're Life Orb. I think +1 Rockfall should KO here through Reflect, but let's see. Oh, they're actually bulky enough to survive. Okay, that's pretty scary. And I think that means they actually survive through Sandstorm as well, which is not ideal. Oh, they've got like 1 HP left. Okay. Well, they obviously faint from Life Orb this turn, and I have Trick Room Pressure, so I'm down to just click Max Quake into Zacian, especially because I know I have the Sitrus Berry right now, and Trick Room. The Knuckle is pretty scary here, though, yeah. Thundurus might actually have some bulk here, then, because I think if Thundurus doesn't have bulk, I would expect it to faint there, but that's the upside of obviously running bulk on it, so, yeah. If I stayed in with Yveltal, I would have actually just fainted to Blade and Knuckle, so the Bronzong switch in helped a lot defensively. But seeing Knuckle is always scary, right? Like seeing a Zacian at +2 attack is always kind of concerning. The play you can make right now if you're my opponent, I was going to say, was to actually like protect Zacian and just Knuckle to Bronzong to get Zacian a +3 attack. But they're just going to Blade into Groudon. Cool. Perfect. That actually puts us in Sitrus range as well. If they end up doubling up into Groudon, actually, regardless of what they go for here, I think we're in pretty good shape. They're going to Lightning into Bronzong. Okay, perfect. So now my question is, how much bulk does the Zacian have? Do you survive the +1 Quake? Because getting a special defense boost with Groudon here is super valuable. If Quake gets the knockout onto the Zacian, we should be in really good shape. Thundurus will faint from Life Orb. Yep. And you can see how much bulk up assisted us in this game, right? Like, that was a +2 Behemoth Blade, and it did just over 50% into our Groudon. Our Dynamax Groudon. Okay, +1 Max Quake into Zacian. Okay, that is a one-hit knockout. Perfect. That puts us in really good shape, right? Because now we've got Yveltal plus Groudon. They've got Reshiram, but I've got this special defense boost on Groudon and another turn of Dynamax, and I can Snarl as well. So this game was pretty scary because I think Reshiram overall matches up pretty well into a lot of our Pokemon, but not so much into Groudon, right? So that's why I prioritize getting that bulk up so much in this game, right? A single bulk up means that we can take the attacks from my opponent's end with a lot more ease, and it also meant that I didn't have to worry as much about yeah, like not picking up knockouts onto something like Zacian. Although I guess I was still concerned about that throughout the course of the game. And I don't know, I think Incineroar you could still make an argument for. Venusaur I think is really hard to slot in here. In a best of 3, I'd consider it if my opponent for some reason like shifted to Gastrodon and started to try to spread Yawn with it. But ultimately, yeah, doesn't make too much sense here. So the nice thing is that Grimmsnarl can't really go for speed control onto Yveltal. They are dual screens here. It's their last turn of light screen. So I'm actually down to just Quake into the Reshiram slot. I expect that to be Assault Vest, honestly. And Oblivion Wing into the... Actually, I'll just Snarl here. I think Oblivion Wing is probably more consistent because it can't miss. But at this point, like, I don't think my opponent can ever really beat the Groudon from this position. So Groudon is at least still super good into Reshiram, right? What I was worried about was like Reshiram Dynamaxing on me. Now, they can go for a burn here with Blue Flare, but even if they get it, it's honestly fine. Because like I would survive an attack from Grimmsnarl, I would get the Quake off. Like even with the burn, Quake would still do a sizable amount to Reshiram. So yeah. I don't know if I agree with the Snarl play there, though, personally. Like, maybe Oblivion Wing into Grimm is better, but I don't think that KOs anyway. So then the play I was thinking was maybe we double up onto Grimm instead with Oblivion Wing and Max Quake. And they go for Spirit Break, yeah. Because, like, a burn plus a crit here could have been a little bit scary. Because the crit there actually would have KO'd the Yveltal, looks like. We're getting close. Because that did, what, 120 exactly on the dot? Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, even without knowing how much Spirit Break is going to do there, I don't know. If they, like, sometimes Grimmsnarls are max attack there, right? So, like, assuming that they are actually, like, hyper offensive and they get a crit could be a little bit scarier. Now we can just Precipice Blades and Oblivion Wing. So, ultimately, I think, like, what gave us a pretty good edge here is the fact that Groudon just came in a perfect position, got the bulk up off. We were staring down a +3 attack Thundurus, a +2 Zacian, and even with that, my opponent, like, couldn't really KO the Groudon that easily, right? And that single defense boost, once again, goes a long way. The other really nice thing was having Bronzong out next to the Groudon, because it essentially, like, pressured Trick Room, right? So, if my opponent doubled up into the Thundurus, into the Groudon, then I would have gotten Trick Room up. Interestingly enough, they had Sub here. I actually think Sub would have been a pretty powerful play for them here to stall out my Dynamax rather than Behemoth Blade. It was Thunder Wave and Spirit Break. One of the reasons why I think Yveltal's a really strong Mon in the format right now is because there's so many Grimmsnarls, and so like Grimmsnarl can't go for the priority attacks onto Yveltal. No Trick, no Thunder Wave, no Scary Face, which I think is really valuable. So it's leftovers on Gastrodon here, and then Miracle Seed on Rillaboom. So yeah, bulk up Groudon really comes up huge for us in this first game. So let's keep things going. Oh boy, next team here, and it's the Weezing, Regigigas, Calyrex, Kyogre kind of hyper offense team. I don't know if I've actually seen like a rental for this, but I've run into it so much on Showdown, and the general idea is that you just, like have some of the strongest Pokemon in the game, right, with some of the strongest spread type attacks. So normally when I play against this, the first thing I want to ask is, okay, how do I beat Weezing and Gigas in itself? Because that's pretty problematic. Weezing Gigas. Gigas actually kind of crushes us here, honestly. But we could go with like Aleki. Like, part of me is like, I want to get Trick Room up, but the thing is, Weezing Gigas just doesn't really let you get Trick Room up, because if I lead, like, they could just max Quake the Bronzong, right? So I'm actually pretty intrigued by like Aleki Yveltal, because I can Electro Web into Foul Play. Groudon, and then Venusaur maybe? I don't think Instinct contributes anything here if Weezing's out on the field. And I think Bronzong just faints too easily, and like I also have to be worried about Weezing canceling Levitate and then Max Quake one-shots Bronzong. If I knew my calcs here against it a little bit better, that'd be helpful. Like if I knew Bronzong could even, survive against the Max Quake, then I would always just go with Bronzong and just lead probably like Instant Bronzong, fake out Weezing, and Trick Room turn 1. But I don't know if like Life Orb Max Quake just one-shots us, and yeah, they go with Weezing Gigas. But this is one of the examples where it's like, I know my opponent's gonna lead this, so I don't have a really good way to stop it, to be honest, but that's okay. I think essentially what I want to do on turn 1 is click Electro Web. Maybe we actually just Dynamax the Yveltal in this game. I was thinking about maxing Venusaur. The idea of Dynamaxing the Yveltal is defensive here, basically, so that I don't just like get one-shot by Regigigas. But honestly, the other intriguing play is to simply just click Foul Play. Then I Electro Web Precipice Blades next turn with Groudon out. Look, I want to Electro Web and Max Airstream, essentially. Or, you know what? Like, I'm really intrigued by Electro Web, Dynamax Yveltal, and Max Guard here. Basically, the idea here is the Regieleki is Focus Sashed, right? So, even if you Max Strike into Aleki, I'll always survive. A lot of players here are going to want to protect the Weezing, because you don't want it to just get one-shot. So, if Weezing protects here, then basically the next turn, I can just double up onto the Weezing slot with a Thunderbolt and a Max Airstream. I guess the question then is Weezing bulky enough to actually survive that? But I'm Max Guarding here as a defensive mechanism, because I think, basically, even if you target the Regieleki, it's still fine. If you don't know this team, a lot of players would normally assume Assault Vest on the Yveltal, and so you normally feel like you have a pretty safe Max Strike into that slot, or a Max Hailstorm. So, I don't know. Like, the thing is, I could have survived a Max Strike here probably, so maybe it was better to just double up onto Weezing anyway, but really hoping to see Weezing go for Protect here. Perfect, okay. That's excellent. Now I can double up into that slot with more confidence next turn. And we drop Regigigas' speed, so now Yveltal outspeeds it next turn, as long as we hit, which we do. Perfect. Let's see where Gigas is targeting. Okay, they do strike into the Aleki slot, so hold on. I'm okay with that, though. Although I guess Max Darkness would have been pretty nice there to like lower their special defense. if I was like hard reading into Protect coming out there. But I still feel okay about this. Because, like, yes, you drop Yveltal's speed, but I can just drop Regigigas' speed once again with an Electro Web. My only problem now is it depends on the Weezing spread. Like, I think Weezing can survive Electro Web and Airstream, because I have to click Electro Web rather than Thunderbolt here. Actually, no, I don't, right? I think Thunderbolt would work, because yes, it means Gigas gets a powerful Hailstorm off. Maybe that would be okay. But good play on that there end turn 1. I'm going to miss Web. Ah! Onto the Weezing. That's the slight risk in going for that. Okay. That's Omega frustrating. But to my opponent's credit, they also made the right play on turn 1. And that actually allows them to outspeed my Regieleki as well. Okay. So we'll get Airstream off, but I don't think this is... if we hit the Electro Web, I think that would have picked up the knockout, but that's okay. And they go for a strike, yep. Okay. Does over half, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean, now I can bring out Venusaur and just click Sleep Powder. I just hate having to rely on Sleep Powder. The alternative is to just go in and Groudon. I could bulk up with it, but they have Kyogre and Calyrex in the back, so I don't think bulk up really helps here. Yeah, that was a really unfortunate Electro Web miss, but it happens. Let's see. It might just have to be Venu with Sleep Powder, as much as I hate relying on it, because, like, it puts me in just such a good spot if I hit it. But it never feels good going for that, right? We're at -1 speed, you're at -2 speed, you're at neutral. Yeah, so I'm going to Sleep Powder into the Gigas here, and just Airstream into Weezing. Maybe there's a chance Weezing could have survived Electro Web. Like, I could see it surviving on, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 HP. But, yeah. Like, even with the defensive Max Guard play I made turn 1, I think we put ourselves in a pretty good position to succeed in this one. Because the other thing is, if Electro Web hits, then Weezing doesn't get that Sludge Bomb off, right? Airstream might still KO through Protect here, by the way. That's the other thing. And I missed Sleep Powder. Yeah. I'll take it, though. Like, the thing with this team is you do have a couple of attacks that can miss, right? And so you shouldn't expect to connect on every single attack. We do still KO through Protect there, but I feel pretty good about my play. Like, I think I put myself in a really good position to succeed. And it's like, if Sleep Powder hits there, or we don't just miss Electro Web and KO Weezing, both would have put us in, like, an absolutely fantastic position. So, yeah. Sometimes you're not going to get the best rolls in Pokemon, but if you can be pleased about, like, the moves that you made, then that's all you can do sometimes, right? So there's Hailstorm. Okay, the Venusaur does survive critically here, which is a pretty big deal. The thing is, it's probably Focus Sash Calyrex, right? Which is really scary. And like Kyogre and Calyrex in the back just add up for so much damage right now. I think this game highlights like using the team that we're currently using, though, right? Oh, interesting. They actually didn't bring one of their restricteds, huh? What did they not bring then? Surely you brought Kyogre, no? That is interesting. That is very interesting. I mean, Aleki is actually really solid for them in this position at the moment, but we have to assume Kyogre is the last one right now. So essentially what I need to do is pivot Groudon in first, but then pressure my opponent to switch out. The question is whether or not they stay in with Regigigas system, but I'm going to Protect and switch out into Groudon right now. If Yveltal, or sorry, if Gigas goes into Kyogre here, though, I'm just done for, I think. Actually, that would be a really solid play, like switching to Kyogre and just Electro Web on their end. Okay, they don't, though. That's good. Groudon actually gets out in an amazing position then. Wild Charge. Wow, okay. They Ice Punch. Cool. Okay, so it's like now Press Blades is really powerful. I'm a little bit worried about this having Wide Guard, but I don't really think I have a way around it. Gigas could also switch into Kyogre right now, right? I don't know how fast Aleki is, like whether or not you're max speed, because I do have a speed boost on Venusaur. It's not gonna allow me to outspeed, really, though. Gigas and a Kyogre is the right play for them right now. Okay, I went for Frenzy Plant and Precipice Blades. Oh, that's interesting. So we are faster than Aleki. Oh, this is going to be a tight finish if Kyogre is indeed our last one. I mean, it has to be Kyogre over Calyrex, right? Yeah, they just went for Wild Charge. Are you Focus Sash on Regieleki? I kind of expect it to be Assault Vest. Yeah, okay. Oh, this is intense, because it's going to be Kyogre against Groudon and Yveltal. It might be Scarf Kyogre here, and if it is Scarf, then I just lose, right? But if it's not Scarf, I can Snarl into Oblivion Wing. What? Their last one's Calyrex. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'll take it. Yveltal should just win from this position, as should Groudon. Even if you were Specs here, what am I worried about? Specs, Astral Barrage? Or Focus Sash, right? Focus Sash. I can miss Snarl, so like... we should assume Choice Specs here, but it shouldn't KO the Yveltal. I want to go for Oblivion Wing, honestly. But if it's Specs, Foul Play just KOs you. And if you're not Specs, then... okay, yeah, I'm just going to Foul Play and Precipice... oh, yeah, Precipice Blades is 5% higher. Okay, they go for Astral. Yep. I also could consider protecting Yveltal here, but with the Assault Vest, I feel confident we'll survive. Yeah, I'm fairly sure that's Specs. So Foul Play here should just get the one-hit knockout. Let's go. Well, that was scary. That was really scary after the misses, but that's why you never give up, right? Like, if my opponent had Kyogre in the back here, it would have depended on the item. If it's Scarf, I probably lose, but if it's not Scarf, then I can actually Snarl, maybe survive an Origin Pulse, and then either go for another Snarl or an Oblivion Wing into Precipice Blades, depending on how I feel about like the position giving Kyogre. So, yeah. But I think this is a great example of how, like, this team, even if you miss a couple of critical attacks, can still win, right? You're going to miss a lot of attacks when you use this team. That's the nature of using attacks like Snarl, Precipice Blade, Stone Edge, Sleep Powder, for example, and Electro Web. So, you know, there's no perfect world in which you just hit all of your attacks, right? But that's the thing. It's consistent enough that you can still win over the long run, even with some bad rolls or some unfavorable misses, for example. So, yeah. That one looked kind of doomed, though, honestly. So, yeah, the fact that they had Calyrex over Kyogre in the back was really huge. And I was actually really just surprised to see Aleki, because I thought if they just had Kyogre and Calyrex, like, I would have been done for. But I think from my opponent's end, they were really worried about, like, a late-game Yveltal. And they're like, hey, I have this physical Aleki that my opponent's surely not going to expect, and I can just catch them off guard with Wild Charge, which I think makes a ton of sense. So, yeah. Either way, though, we do come out with a win there, so let's go for a third. Third match here, and we're up against Zacian plus Calyrex with Charizard, Whimsicott, Urshifu, and Incineroar. Okay. Unfortunately, this is probably one of the worst matchups for Bronzong. Like, they've got a Charizard, a Calyrex, a potential Dark Urshifu, and Incineroar. So, it is not Bronzong time here, unfortunately. This one's interesting. Basically, like, Whimsicott plus Charizard is probably my main fear, because you can Tailwind into just Wildfire immediately. I think that's pretty problematic. My response to that would probably be Incineroar plus Regieleki for Fake Out into Lightning. And then Groudon Yveltal in the back, probably. Like, I think Charizards, generally, if they're well played, can be very strong into the comp that we're using here, right? Because, like, Venusaur can just get crushed by it, by Wildfire. Bronzong doesn't contribute much value into it. Now, one thing to note is that, like, Charizard's not as scary if it doesn't have the sun up, right? So, like, Whimsicott can Tailwind, it can Sunny Day, but it can't do both simultaneously, and so that's one thing we can keep in mind. I think what's also interesting about my opponent's team, and for a lot of Calyrex Zacian teams, is that, you know, Calyrex can Dynamax on those compositions, but they don't do it that frequently, so it limits you a little bit in terms of what you may or may not want to max. It's going to be Urshifu and Calyrex here. Okay. I don't mind that very much. I mean, turn 1 was already pretty interesting. It's also interesting because I was just talking about, like, oh, would you max Calyrex here? It actually does make some sense to max it. The other interesting thing is only one of these two Pokemon can carry Focus Sash at the moment. I've got Groudon and Yveltal in the back. It's pretty safe for me to just click Fake Out into the Urshifu and Electro Web, but I could see Urshifu protecting, so I'm kind of down to just Throat Chop Calyrex and Electro Web turn 1. The other play to consider was Dynamaxing Eleki, but they actually just go for Aqua Jet onto Incin. Okay. I feel like that's really good for us unless you're Specs Calyrex and you one-shot Incineroar with a Mud Shot right now. Because now I've dropped Urshifu's speed. I'll get the KO onto Calyrex if you're not Specs here. Yeah, they just Astro Barrage. I think that's very strong for us because we'll survive with both Mons here even if you're Specs. Yep. Now I get the KO onto Calyrex. Cool, that works for me. Now, what can my opponent have in the back that's scary? Charizard could come out right now and just Dynamax on me, and that would actually be really problematic. Because Aqua Jet pressure from the Urshifu is looking pretty scary right now. Huh. So you know what's one really interesting play? Like, let's say I expect Aqua Jet into Eleki, Max Airstream into Incin. There is a world in which I Dynamax Incineroar to max strike Urshifu and drop Charizard's speed. Aqua Jet's going to go into Eleki right now for sure. And then they're going to Airstream, no? Can I survive, basically, like a max Airstream without the sun being up? Because if so, I actually think it's the correct decision to Dynamax the Incineroar here. I did not go for it here in the end. I don't, like, know the calc. I don't know if it's Life Orb on Charizard, because if it is Life Orb, I don't know if we survive the Airstream, and then I would just throw away my Dynamax for nothing, right? Plus, there's always a world in which I guess they target the Incineroar instead with Urshifu. But, yeah, if I knew what item Charizard were a little bit better here, I'd actually be a little bit more willing to go for it. But, like, I just don't want to throw away my Dynamax like that immediately. But things get pretty scary now because I'm staring down a Charizard and Groudon will probably set up the sun for it, right? Let's see. There's Aqua Jet. Yep, into the Yveltal slot. And there's Airstream, yeah. So if I see a Life Orb here, then I'll feel a little bit better about my decision. If there were no Life Orb, I actually think it's always Max Incident, just strike there. Let's see. Okay, they were Life Orb. We might still survive, honestly. I'm not 100% sure on that, but... okay, I guess I go out into Groudon then. Gosh, this game just highlights how good Charizard can be, right? Turn 1 was pretty good for me, but because of the Urshifu with priority right now, I can't get Regieleki out in a good spot, and that's what's making this kind of tough right now. This could be a game in which... actually, I was going to say I could gamble and basically expect them to Wildfire Yveltal and Max Guard it, but I don't think that even gets us anywhere, to be honest. Like, if I were my opponent, I would simply Wildfire into Groudon here. Wildfire into Groudon, to which I can survive, but gosh, it just does so much damage. It could be to Max Guard Groudon and Snarl here. Or I just hope to survive, Rockfall into Charizard, and just Oblivion Wing. Yeah, Charizard's just so strong, and they did a really good job, like, positioning it in this game. Like, how could I have beaten the Zard? Bronzong can't really set up Trick Room against Urshifu plus Calyrex. Maybe Dynamaxing Eleki on turn 1? Protecting Eleki actually would have worked. But, like, they could just Surging Strikes it there, so I don't love that play. There's Wildfire into Groudon. Okay, it does a lot, but we survive, and I should get a double knockout here in return, so it might be okay. Oh, you know what's problematic though? I have to set up the sand here, meaning that when I have Regieleki out on the field, my opponent should have Zacian as their last one. All they have to do is protect Zacian, and then Eleki feigns from sand. So that's not good. Now I have Black Glasses Foul Play, but it's This is crazy. It's going to be a 3-on-1 against Zacian, and I actually think the Zacian wins it. Even without the sand, actually, they set up Wildfire, so I'd faint from Wildfire anyway. Yeah. I don't know, was it ever to Max Guard there and Snarl? There's so much I could go wrong there, though, right? And then they could just Surging Strikes. Yeah, I think Charizard's going to be one of the tougher Pokemon to go up against with this team. Still winnable. I guess, like, maybe Groudon can survive a Behemoth Blade from this angle. If we survive Blade, I don't know, we're such low HP. Do I really count on surviving? I don't expect it to. Okay, but the thing is, if I read into who Zacian targets here, like, what I can do is Max Guard and Foul Play, no? They could read into it. But they just lose if I Quake here, so I think they have to target me, to be honest. I'm going to go for the Max Guard Foul Play. Oh my gosh, they protected. I could have gotten a free Quake through Protect. So, nicely done. They read that turn. That should allow them to win the game now, I think. If I had gotten that damage through Protect, and then I'd have the same mind game on who Zacian targets this turn, I think I would have actually won the match. But now I think Zacian pulls out the comeback. So, good job to go for the Protect there. I don't think it's the easiest play to make. Now I would target Groudon. Okay, it's still winnable. I'm gonna go into Regieleki here and sacrifice it, because Regieleki is always gonna faint from Wildfire, right? Because something's gonna go down here, so might as well at least get rid of that, and then bring Groudon back in. Then I'll Foul Play into Zacian. Yeah, Max Quake there would have done a solid, like, 25-30% through Protect. And then I could just, like, go for Quake Foul Play. Even then, like, with Wildfire and Sand damage, it adds up so much. I really like how my opponent approached this game, honestly. Okay, so there's Blade. They do target Regieleki. It's Black Glasses Foul Play against a +1 Zacian. So basically the hope here is that we do over 50% to it, and then it's just the can I hit Precipice Blades or Foul Play onto it. Okay, yeah, that did over 50. Nice. How much do I take from Wildfire? 93 to 60, so 33. So, yeah, now it's a question of whether or not I hit Precipice Blades, or do I want to make the read my opponent targets Yveltal and Protect? I think I'm just going to take the 85% chance to win the game here. I don't want to go for a prediction on whether or not Zacian makes the right target. I'm pretty happy to put myself in this position, honestly. So, yeah, we're just going to Blades and Foul Play. I think this game, by the way, highlights the strength of Black Glasses Foul Play, right? We're doing over 50% to a Zacian. Okay, so they go for Protect. That's fine. Protect makes sense just to see if I try to Protect once again and try to get more Wildfire damage off. But at this point, it boils down to a 2v1. They're relying on a miss. So yeah, like I said, I could go for the read that they target the Yveltal slot. But then it's like, I would actually throw the game away if they made the prediction that I go for that and target Groudon, right? So, in most players' shoes, I think they would target Groudon here, but I don't want to just, like, instantly lose the game, right? It's like, I'll take an 85% chance to win. And they actually go for Quick Attack on a Groudon. Yeah, exactly. This is what I mean, right? If I protected Yveltal here, I would lose the game. But Foul Play now should just get the knockout, given how much the previous one did. Exactly, exactly. So, yeah, like, in this endgame, it's like, even if my opponent makes the right play, which is targeting Yveltal, I have an 85% chance to win the match. And if they don't make the right play and target the Groudon, I just win the game immediately, right? And if I try to get a little bit fancy and be like, oh, you have to target the Yveltal slot there, I would have literally just lost the game immediately. So, glad to let my opponent, like, showed exactly kind of the logic in my endgame there, right? Because, yeah, if we get too fancy there, we protect Yveltal, it's just game over, and losing a game like that feels really bad. Sometimes you just have to accept, yes, the endgame boils down to whether or not I hit this attack, but it's an 85% chance minimum to win the game, and that can basically be 100% if they target the Groudon rather than Yveltal. So, yeah. That was definitely pretty scary, though. I think my opponent did a really smart job in how they, like, staggered bringing out Charizard. In my head, I was prepared to, like, deal with the Whimsicott plus Charizard lead, but they led with a lot of offense immediately. I think what they did a good job was, like, recognizing, hey, Regieleki is, like, the Pokemon that threatens me the most, so why don't I try to, you know, put on a little bit more pressure against it early. I guess it could have been worse if they actually just clicked Surging Strikes into Regieleki on turn 1 rather than the Aqua Jet. Because I actually could have just gone Fake Out plus Electro Web there. maybe that was just a little bit more consistent, to be honest. I guess it wouldn't have made that much of a difference. I wouldn't have eaten the initial Aqua Jet, though. I get the Electro Web off. But, yeah, I don't know. I think Dynamaxing Instant was a really compelling option, but it's hard to feel confident there. And if I get one-shot by Charizard, then it's like I lose my max for nothing. And then I just lose the game. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much, as always, for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right. Peace.